Hey, what is going on, you guys? Today I'm going to be doing some work on my boat. I'm going to do some fuel filters and stuff like that. The weather's warming up, coming into fishing season pretty much, snapper season that I love. So I'm going to run you through what I'm going to be doing, what filters I'm going to be putting on the boat, and pretty much why I'm going to be putting them on the boat. I'm not giving the boat a full service. I will be doing that down the track, but I'm just going to run you through what I'm doing and you can come along. So this is my boat. It's kitted out with a 75 Merc, and so what I'm going to be putting is I'm going to be putting on a water separator fuel filter. It is for the Mercury. It's interchangeable, a reusable bowl. We change the filter and stuff along those lines. It's 10 micron, and I'm going to be fitting this out pretty much identical to what I've got on my boat at the moment. Mine's actually not a water separator, it's just a standard filter. These things are worth their weight in gold. I can't stress these enough. I've been wanting one for a while, so I finally went and got it. I'm going to take you through how to install it, just things you got to look out for. There's really too much to look out for when installing that, but hey, a lot of people haven't done it, so I'll take you through that. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to be replacing the internal fuel filter. So the internal fuel filter is about here on my boat. It sits about there under this cover. And I've gone for another universal one. These things are awesome, especially if you don't know the fitting of your fuel line. You put in whatever attachment it is for it, and it will suit your boat perfectly. The other thing too, this is see-through, so if you do get gunk in your fuel, this is like a fuel strainer. It's not really a fuel filter. They class it as a fuel filter, but it's more of a strainer. And you can actually pull this apart and clean this out, so it's easy inspection, better than the standard ones, which are throwaway ones, little plastic ones. So I'll take you through the installation of this as well. So first off, what you want to do is you want to locate where your fuel filter is. Mine's just here down on the transom. It is in a very tight confined spot. You can either remove the rod holder here, or you can remove the battery. It's completely up to you guys on how you actually get in there. But up the top, I don't know if it's up the top there's the two bolts. Here's your line in, that's the fuel line in, that's your fuel line out. Make sure you take note on what one goes in and what one goes out, because if you muck that up, your boat's not going to run. Then on the outside here are the two screws that I was telling you about, which goes through with the two little captive nuts on the back. So this is the whole housing. We're going to be removing the whole housing today. So I'm going to be removing this filter, which hasn't been changed in a while, as you can tell. I'll be removing that and the housing, and then I'm going to be replacing it with the one I just brought, which is down here. So let's do that now. So after you do undo the two screws with the captive nuts, they're the ones that ran in through the transom. This whole filter assembly drops down, and as you can tell, it's a lot more easier to get into it and do what you have to do while it's hanging down here. Now be advised, there's going to be fuel that goes everywhere here. You want to put like a drain tray or something down, because this is going to go everywhere. Even if the boat hasn't been running in a long time, these filters do still hold a lot of fuel. So about half a litre or so not too much fuel, but it will be running out. Then you undo these two lines and we'll get this filter assembly out of here. Now if you want to know how I undid this filter prior to pulling it down, and this is the reason why I undid that filter prior to pulling it down, because you actually can't get a pry on it when they're off. But I used a oil filter wrench, standard 3-jaw oil filter wrench, or you can use the old seatbelt ones, or you can use the normal metal loop around oil filter wrenches. It's just whatever you have lying around, but I prefer you get a firm grip on it, and they do concave, so make sure you get the right stuff before you start the job. Now as you can tell, look at all that nasty gritty sort of crap in there. This is the reason why I wanted to pull the fuel filter off and actually inspect what the old one was like. The previous owner didn't really maintain this boat, so I've brought it off him, and it needs some work, but the motor and stuff runs perfect. It just needs a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of TLC here and there. There's a few things that are wrong with it. When you're talking about dealing with stuff that goes in the water and you're out on the bay, you don't really want to be getting stuck out there. But look at that, that is just all sediment and and just gunk and crap, and that's going all through your fuel system. If that filter wasn't there, that would be going straight into your fuel system. So that's why I'm going to be either that or it's got a bad batch of fuel, because that is rank. That is absolutely rank. It's got a lot of water in there too. It's got a little bit of water, so that's why I've got the fuel separator system to go on. And this is underneath the filter housing. The filter housing itself is actually pretty clean. It's not rusted or anything, so if I wanted to reuse that I could. It's got a little bit of corrosion on it, but not too bad. But this filter here is just absolutely shocking. Now when it comes to pulling off these lines, obviously you're going to need a flat blade screwdriver. Sometimes I run the Phillips head but flat blade, or you can use the hex to get around with a quarter drive. Then you want to just wiggle them back and forth with some pointy nose pliers. Now these are the sort of tools that you need to add in as the job's going, because I don't know what your boat is like. All boats are different. Some have snap-on fittings, some have barbs like this. It all depends on what type of boat you got, but in this case I'll need a flat blade screwdriver and some pointy nose pliers or some multi-grips or something like that, just to wiggle the lines back and forth and pull back at the same time. Now you're going to need to muscle these. These are probably, if they've been sitting around for a while, they're going to be tight. So you're going to have to need some muscle to undo these. So let's undo these now. This is the housing when it's off the boat. So the bigger one's the fuel line in, and this smaller one's the fuel line out. So that's fuel line in, that's fuel line out. My boat, it wasn't actually too bad to pull the lines off this. I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult, but it wasn't actually too bad. They slid off pretty easy. So the previous person that's pulled them off once before, they were actually smart and put some grease or something on it, so it came off easy. Now if you look at the top of the filter, you will see that it has an arrow pointing in, arrow pointing out, arrow pointing out, arrow pointing in. So it's depending on what style your boat is to how you set this new filter up that you've got. See, mine are just going to be a line in and a line out. That's all mine's going to be, and then I'm going to use the two blanking plugs to blank off the other ones. But you need to make sure that you get the right one before you start the job, otherwise you're going to have a boat that's out of commission unless you can put it back together for the time being. And looking at that, after it's sat for a little bit, it's just all sediment and crap. That's not light, that is the colour of the fuel. It looks like rust. So it's got some crap in the fuel. So hopefully this new fuel filter makes a difference. Probably explains why the boat's running like crap. And if it's got into the filter and it's got into the other one that's under the hood, it's probably got into the carbies. So I'm going to have to pull the carbies apart and clean them out too at some stage, I'd say. Now with some instances you do have some differences with the housings, especially with like boats, the manufacturers, they tend to change things along the lines as they upgrade their boats. In this case, because this is an older sort of boat, its fittings are different in here. So don't stress, all you have to do is match up the housings, make sure the housings are identical, and then you can just reuse your old housing. That fuel filter will screw straight onto here and there won't be any issue at all. So you want to check the depth of the threads, you want to check the actual mounting face, make sure that's clean. Also I would recommend spraying like carby cleaner or something through this housing, make sure it's all clean in there, which this one already is, there's no issue with that. And then you can actually reuse that housing, there's no problems with that at all. Because with this one, as you can tell, it's got different barbs. Now this is the kit for this boat, but obviously Mercury, I spoke to Mercury and they said no, we did actually change the fittings on these. So whoever the hell I spoke to at Mercury, can't remember their name, but they said that they changed the fittings. So that some of the style boats had the big fitting going in for the inline and then the small fitting going out, and some boats have the two small fittings. So maybe that's for a 4-stroke, I don't know, but yep, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to swap this housing back and clean it all out and put it all back on the boat. And when installing the new filter, around this O-ring you can either use like engine oil, or you can use some rubber grease. Do not use moly grease or anything along those lines, or bearing grease. You want to actually use rubber grease. If not, just use the engine oil. In this case, I'm going to use some rubber grease around here on this gasket, and then I'm also going to run some around the bowl as well on this little O-ring, and that just helps it release a little bit easier next time as well. And when it comes to installation, it's pretty straightforward. You just put your fuel lines on, so your inline, your outline, and then you just bolt it straight back up on the transom. So now when it comes to the inline fuel filter, what you want to do is you want to remove the hood or the cover off your engine, and then you get in there and we locate the inline fuel filter. So let's do that now. Now if you don't know how to remove the hood or the cowling actually off your engine, most, if not all outboards have like a lever or like a clip. Some of them have like a clip setup. This one has a lever, so it is quite tight, and then you actually push that. Now these things can be bloody tight, so what they do is they hook in at the back here. They hook into the back, but you've got this rubber like gasket. It's the same sort of rubber like weather protectant that you have around the door sills of your cars, and what this does is it bloody locks on there tight. So I'll get this off and then I'll show you what's under the hood of my 75 Merc. So here's under the hood of the 75 Merc. This is like the rubber sort of protectant thing, weather shield that I was telling you about. Stops water getting in there, salt water and stuff. Now what you want to do is you want to do like an upwards motion. They have like a little handle here, and this one you just do an upwards motion and you've just got to use a lot of force to get this off. But here's that inline fuel filter I was telling you about. So it's held on by 2 cable ties. You want to cut those cable ties. Make sure you know the direction of the flow. It will have an arrow on it. So that's in and that is out. Make sure you pay close attention to that, because if you put it the wrong way around, your boat may not run, or it actually might not even get fuel there at all, or it just won't work. It will just flow straight through and not even work as a fuel filter. So make sure you get that right. This is nice and easy. All you want to do is you want to cut these cable ties here, that one there and that one there. Your boat will have a similar sort of setup. Most of the 2 strokes have the same sort of setup with just the inline fuel filter and the one on the transom. But you want to cut them without cutting the line, and then you get this filter out, and I guarantee you this is going to be clogged. If it's anything to run off, what was here, and there is a heap of water in here because I've let that sit, and you can see it all sitting at the bottom. I want to actually put that in a container and find out exactly how much water was in there. This is going to be clogged, so you want to do this, and then if you want to do carbies and things along those lines you can. But back to this, let's get this out of here, and then we'll put the universal one in there that I brought earlier. I'll get this one in there, find out what size fittings they are, and it should be a straightforward swap over. So unlike the filter on the transom, this one has not been out, and it is actually quite tight in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the method. I'm going to try and do this one-handed. It's going to be a little bit interesting. One-handed, and you get your pointy nose pliers in there. You just wiggle this line back and forth. Obviously be careful of any wires or anything. See how that's now freed up? Now we'll do this with the top as well. Just do it, sort of freeze it up. Which that's now free. And then you just pop that down. So you twist and pull down. Now I can't do this one-handed with the camera. I'm going to use 2 hands, but obviously be careful of all your shifter linkages, any wiring, if there is any wiring running around here. I'm quite lucky there isn't. And just pull this fuel filter out. Now you may get a little bit of fuel come out. It's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. Just don't light a cigarette or anything like that around it. Or have a lighter to check for fuel leaks, which I have seen people do before. It's quite funny when the fuel explodes in their face. But we'll get this off, and then I'll get back to you. So now I've got one fuel line off. I should be able to just demonstrate how to pull it off. So you just twist and pull it off like that. And this is my inline fuel filter, which has been there for quite a while. Now notice that arrow. I don't know if you can see that arrow. That arrow there, that's the flow. So it comes in here and out there. Now if you want, you can breathe through it, see if it's clogged, which I'll probably end up doing, and you put it up to the light, which doesn't actually look too bad. It's actually quite clear and see-through, but I replaced it anyway because it hasn't been done in a very long time. Now, what you do with this one, if you're using the same universal fitting like what I am, is you want to find out the size of these barbs. And just find out the size of them, match them up, screw them into your new filter, and then put it back on. It is a very, very straightforward. Now I've matched up my fittings with the fittings in the kit, so I just matched them up with the original fuel filter. And I'm going to go the Teflon tape with this. I used the Permatex seal on, got that sealant on the transom fuel filter, but I'm going to use the Teflon tape with this. Now with Teflon tape, a lot of people muck this up. What you want to do is you want to know which way the thread screws in. 90% of the time it is going to be a right hand thread, so it goes clockwise, so righty tighty, lefty loosey. What you want to do is you want to go against, so you start the Teflon tape, so say you hold the Teflon tape here and you want to wrap it like that direction, now around, so it's going anti-clockwise, so the tail is facing backwards. If you do it anti-clockwise to put it on the thread, when you go to tighten it up, the Teflon tape will unscrew itself off the thread and you end up with a bunch of mess. So what you want to do is you want to wrap it around anti-clockwise. Wrap that anti-clockwise. That's provided it's a right hand thread. If it's a left hand thread, obviously you do it clockwise. So just to keep in note. Now once the installation is finished, guys, obviously it's all in. I got my fittings in. I used the 5/16 fittings. You want to bleed up the fuel system. I've just had a little bit of an issue doing that because the little primer bulb doesn't work too well in bleeding a whole fuel system. Obviously the boat mechanics must have something to push that through or bleed that through, so what I did was I primed it up enough so the boat would kick and start, and then as the boat kicked and started, I primed it up and got the fuel to come all the way through. And it was awesome with this universal filter because I look straight in there and actually see the fuel physically going into the engine. So then check for leaks. You want to check for leaks as well, so obviously all your fittings you want to check for leaks when the boat's running. Obviously be careful not to get body hit by any moving parts. And up at the transom you want to check for obviously any fuel leaks or anything as well. So this concludes my video on how to change fuel filters on a boat. Now this boat here, I know all boats all vary and change. So this boat here is a 5-meter Savage. It's a runabout. It's got the aluminum hull or aluminium hull, however you want to class it, and it's got a 2-stroke 75 horsepower Merc on the back. So if your boat's the same, it should be, you follow this video and you'll be able to do it straightforward. But if your boat's a 4-stroke or a different sort of setup with the transom or the hull, or maybe your engine might be a Yamaha or a Suzuki or something along those lines that have a different location for the fuel filter, it's the basic same principles, but just make sure you check with your manufacturer of your boat and find out what those fuel filters are. Make sure you get the right parts and do your research before you go to do the job. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you out. If you like it, give it a huge thumbs up. If you like it, you can check out my channel. You can check out some of my fishing videos and me chasing snapper, the thing that I love to do. And if you have any questions, shoot them down in the comment section. Until next time, this was SpedzaGoFishTv. I've done it.